My name is Spencer Cannon. I play John. Been a voice actor for about 6 years now. I was actually going to go be a lawyer. Went and talked to a bunch of lawyers and they were like, don't be a lawyer. So I was like, okay, all right, sweet. So my degree is useless. So then I got into advertising, started doing a couple other things. A buddy of mine in town was actually a sound engineer and a producer. And he was like, hey, I think you'd actually be pretty good at this. You should come give it a shot. And so I met up with him and we kind of started hammering it out, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm a product of the 90s, so like Japan ruled my childhood. So, you know, video games, anime, cartoons, all of that was in my back pockets. I kind of already knew what to do just through osmosis, and, you know, just kind of started chopping it up from there. I did one project that was a lot of fun for this Italian game company one time. He's basically a chicken is the main character, and he's going around this really cool animated town that they hand drew and do all this stuff and placed all the assets. Really interesting project that they did. But then I just got to like channel my inner Steve Bloom, who's another voice actor. I basically played Spike Spiegel, as that was like my archetype, and then just like noired him up. So that was super fun, really enjoyed that. Got to work with the mouse, got to work for Disney on a trailer just recently. That was really fun. It almost starts blurring together because, you know, I've done so much stuff over so many years, but yeah, those ones definitely stand out. And of course, I've also really enjoyed playing John. Commercial work is obviously, you know, a lot less vocally stressful because usually it's just like, hey, what's up, buy this thing, and it's really fast and you can get through the sessions a lot quicker. But for me, what actually brought me into voice acting was video games. I basically looked at like Troy Baker, Nolan North, and I was like, that's what I want to do, that's who I want to be. And I've kind of had a pretty wide swath of stuff that I've done in the meantime. I didn't want to leave Salt Lake City because this is where I'm, you know, born and raised. I love the mountains, I love the deserts, and I didn't want to go to LA. So I was like, a little bit limited on the projects I could do. But that being said, I've still been able to work on a number of video game projects that I really love. Video games are the most creatively fun to do, but they also can be a little vocally stressful when all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need you to scream for like 2 hours and just do like 50 variations on this character dying. I haven't actually had any shortage of stuff to do the entire time I've been in Salt Lake because everything went online more or less, and it's been facilitated like that. But the major studios were pretty hesitant. You know, they were reticent because they're like, we don't know what your space is like. We don't know how you acoustically treat. We don't know what equipment you're on, all this stuff. Basically, since COVID more or less just sped up everyone's timelines on going digital anyways, there were a ton of new opportunities that just started flowing in where it was like, hey, we don't care if you live in Wyoming. If you got strong internet and industry standard gear, like go for it. And it kind of created this weird thing where, you know, there's a few different industry standard ways of recording stuff, like through Source Connect and through all these other things. But what was super fascinating to me is all these studios kind of had to realize that there's audio fidelity that's really clear that's used for like Xbox Live or for all these other things. So it's kind of like, hey, you can record really clear audio from literally anywhere as long as you've got the proper setup. So I think COVID kind of accelerated that and opened up their mindsets to being like, maybe this guy, we can work remote. So I answered the casting, and it was just one of those things. It was an online casting, and I went in there and I kind of got a feel for it. You know, I had played games that were, you know, in a similar vibe and all that. And I just gave it my best shot, and apparently they liked me. I basically will just go into a recording session. I read who the character is, kind of what archetype they fit into. And so often, you know, I'll get paragraphs of descriptions, but so often I can kind of read the copy and start almost formulating who that character is as I'm going. And if I have like 4 descriptors of who this person is, and I know that almost sounds like I'm dumbing it down and like making it simplistic, because it's like character history is super important. But for me as a voice actor, I almost get bogged down in too many details. Even if you've had all this trauma in your past, all these different things, your day-to-day interactions wouldn't always be like, my wife is dead, you know what I mean? Like, don't bother me. It'd be like, no, you still got to go like make coffee, you know what I mean? So I just generally play characters like a human and then start narrowing in on what it is that makes them unique. I fly fished my entire life with my dad, and I love to camp. I love to do all this stuff. Some of my favorite places I've traveled, I fly fished down in Patagonia when I was 14. And so we just cruised down to Argentina, and it was super interesting because the Andes are actually incredibly similar to the Rockies. And like they have all these gauchos and like, you know, cowboys down there that you feel like you're in the American West. It's just everyone speaks Spanish. And it's beautiful. There's these glacial lakes that come down and create just this pristine vistas that I loved. And Patagonia was just absolutely amazing. Not too long ago, like I think back in 2018, I went to Japan and spent a couple weeks there, and Japan was just chef's kiss. So I love Japan. We go back there a million times. Europe's dope. I've been to China, a bunch of other places, but I would say Japan, it's always just, I just kind of have a soft spot for Japan anyways. So going there and getting to actually experience the culture, I loved it. So one, don't overthink it, because a lot of times I think in terms of acting in general, kind of like what I was talking about before about not over preparing for something. I know that made it sound like I just roll in there like half asleep and just try to like figure it out while I'm doing it. I guess what I meant more by not even preparing is sometimes when I over intellectualize something, it takes out a lot of the humanity that you would normally do. And, you know, like I think of it as like I'm supposed to be believably doing a character, right? And most people believably stutter. You know what I mean? They pause, they do all these things. They don't have perfect articulation. They'll do certain things that, even though the script might say, this is what you should do, a lot of times in the process, it's like, do contractions. You can put in a little thinking beat because that's what a human would do, all these different things. So don't overthink it. But two, and this is the more important thing, is just don't stop doing it. Because for me, it was kind of like, I have people be like, how do you get into this? And I'm like, you audition, you set up your booth, you do all these things, and you do it 8 to 10 hours a day for multiple years, and you'll get good at it. I think people want like a secret sauce, and I think there is some, you know, there's some natural ability that comes with like all artistic endeavors, right? Like I suck at painting, and I know people that are really good just right off the bat. But if I painted 10 hours a day for 5 years, I would be an okay painter, I would hope. Or it'd be like, I should probably dip out on this, you know, if I'm not making any progress. But yeah, just don't get bogged down in rejection. Don't get bogged down in negativity. Just keep doing it, and you will naturally craft your art. Just keep going. Perseverance. So this has been John. Check out Claire de Lune, which is on the Steam and Epic stores, and it's pretty fun. I give it a shot.